Hey guys, Coach Logan here, and I thought I would do another puzzle video, so let's take a look. Just heads up, these are getting really difficult, so I might have to spend a lot of time on, just one or two of these. So what's going on here? So Black has an extra queen. Well, it's a queen for a rook and a bishop. Black also has this pawn ready to promote onto b1. So things look pretty good for black, but the question is there some mating net that's being formed over here? Like white's threatening c6 check, and then if king c8, they have rook a8, which is mate. If we play king b8, they have c7 check. Well, actually, yeah, c7 check, king to b7. Maybe bishop c6 check there, and then if we take the rook, they can promote with check. Still, I'm not sure if that's actually going to lead to mate if we promote our pawn. Like if we promote to a queen and they play c6 check and we go king b8. Then c7 check, king b7. They can't promote yet because we take. If they play something like bishop c6 check, well then okay, we play king takes a6, they promote to a queen, we go king a5. I think our king might be able to escape that. We are up a queen at that point. However, if we promote and they play c6 check, king b8, they do have rook b6 check. But there we have king c8. I'm trying to avoid a perpetual by just going, king a8 or king a7. King c8. They could try bishop to a6 check, and then if king d8, our queen is actually x-ray covering the back rank. Unfortunately, they do have c7 check. King d7, they can promote with check. Certainly looks very dangerous. Well, I think a simpler option might be, okay, I think I see it now. All right, I was looking this whole time trying to make b1 work. Another option is queen to f1 check, which would attack the king, sort of skewer the king to this bishop. And if they play king takes f1, we promote to a queen with check, and then we can take the bishop. And still, does that actually lead to a winning? So after we promote with check, the thing is they'll have to go king e2, so then we take the bishop with check. So queen f1, I'm trying to think what else they could do here. That looks pretty good to me. Queen f1, they could go king d2. But then if we take the bishop, rook b6, we take the rook and then we're promoting. So I think queen f1 does it. Yeah. That one wasn't actually all that hard. I mean, I've seen ones at this level that are really difficult. I think I just wasted a lot of time looking down the wrong path when there was a simplifying trick that was winning. Sorry, I'm just grabbing more water here. Okay, well, let's do the next one. Okay, so what's going on here? So if we look at material, black is up quite a bit. They're up 2 pawns and a piece. No, just 2 pawns. But we have a semi-open B file. Potential for an attack there. We've got quite a few attackers aimed at the king, so just to point them out, we have our queen, our rook, our bishop, and I'm going to include this pawn. I think a pawn that's far enough advanced near the opponent's king counts as a piece when you're doing an attack. I mean, not necessarily in the end game, but when you have attacking chances, then pawn is very important. So immediately considering something like bishop takes a6, if we can play bishop takes a6, if they were to go b takes a6, something like pawn to c6 looks interesting, which would threaten rook to b8 with mate. It would also threaten bishop taking the queen on e7. Just trying to see here. Bishop takes a6. Bishop takes a6 is also threatening to play bishop takes b7 check, and then if king d7, once again, c6 is a very strong move. So bishop takes a6 definitely is looking like an appealing candidate. I'm trying to see if there's an issue with that. And they'll have knight c3 in some lines, which attacks our queen. But if they did that right away, we could play bishop takes b7 check. Again, and I think that if king d7, then pawn to c6 check is very strong. I mean, they're still attacking our queen, so they could play knight takes c6, but I don't really believe it. Knight takes c6, bishop takes c6, king takes c6. I mean, we could even play bishop takes e7, and if they take our queen, we can take an exchange and then later take the knight. So yeah, so bishop takes a6. I'm really not seeing much of a way for them to resist. I'm gonna put it on the board. I'm not seeing a great defensive try for black after that. Okay, so they just took. Well, so then I think I liked pawn to c6 here. I could start with rook b8 check, and then if king to d7, then pawn to c6. But then after, let's see, so we sacked one piece. If we play pawn to c6, black could play something like, I don't know, knight takes c6, and then if we take the queen, they could take our rook on b8, attacking our queen, and then potentially take the bishop. And they're starting to take a lot of pieces. Like we sacked a bishop. If we sack a rook and a second bishop, I mean, we're losing a lot for the queen. That's why I kind of like c6 better directly. It's threatening the queen without having played rook b8. It's threatening rook b8 checkmate. It's keeping the king in a kill zone, which is just generally an idea that I think is very important when you're attacking. I'm just seeing if I'm missing some resource that they have. c6 is very powerful, though. It's attacking their queen and just threatening mate. I don't think I'm missing anything. I think that should be winning. Yeah, c6. And now we'll take the queen. And it's nice that we don't have a rook on b8 here. If they could take another rook on b8, well, then you might be up a queen, but you're down so many other pieces that it might not matter. Okay, so let's do another one. Excuse me, it's early morning here and I'm getting tired. Or I'm still tired, I'm getting awake. Okay, so what's going on in this one? I think there'll be some mating pattern at hand with our rooks and our bishop. So one thing I'm noticing is while it's very scary, the attack that White has going with his two rooks on the 7th rank and his pawns sort of crashing through on the 6th rank, certainly this looks scary. However, it's actually difficult for White to have a check on our king immediately because so let me explain. I was considering something like moving this rook, maybe rook f to f2 to threaten the knight. And I noticed that White can't really play rook to g7 because we would simply just take with our rook on g2. They also don't really have rook to e8 check because we could play king takes h7. I mean, maybe they, yeah, no, they don't really have that because they can't even really try to promote the pawn afterwards because our bishop is covering d7. I'm tempted to play rook f to f2 and attack the knight. And one thing is if we attack the knight, if the knight were to move, let's say something, I don't know, like knight to b3, well then rook to f1 is checkmate, or rook to g1. So I'm not totally clear how they're actually going to deal with the threat on their knight. Excuse me, sorry, good. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I think that's an important point that they don't have a critical check right now. I'm just trying to double check this. So rook f2, knight moves somewhere. Yeah, I think this looks good. Yes. Okay, so they're taking this pawn. Okay, well, so they are close to queening. So now what should we do? Should we take the knight with check? If we take the knight with check, they would have king to e1, and it's kind of hard to check them again because our rooks are too close to the king, or at least this rook on d2 is too close so that we can't check. We would have an issue with them threatening to promote on d8. However, if rook takes d2 and they play king e1, we can also then play rook takes d6. Then we would be covering this pawn, promoting. Again, they can't, I mean, they could play rook e8, but we would take the rook on h7. They don't have a rook to g7 check. I think I like this rook takes d2. And now I think I like this. Yes, okay, good. All right, maybe time for one more here, although I don't know. I mean, I can only record 15 minutes on this, so I might have to end up guessing in a position I'm less than sure about. But okay, so rook to a2. What's going on here? White's up a piece, but black has a lot of these threats mounting with these pawns on light squares near the king, the bishop on the dark square. They're threatening rook to a1, which would be mate. So what is white to do here? Well, we could play knight to c3, which would block the bishop. The bishop is pinned, but no, that doesn't work because, well, they have rook to a1 check. And then, I mean, we don't want to hang our rook on g1, so we would have to throw knight to b1 in. They could play d2 check at that point, king to c2, and we'd be defending against d1 queen. If I can't think of something in the next 30 seconds, I might have to just go with that. I mean, really, we got to deal with the threat of rook to a1, which would be checkmate, or at least just winning the rook. It's not checkmate. We have king to d2, but it's certainly unpleasant. We could move this rook. We could play something like rook to g4. But then that allows d2 check, and the pawn should be able to promote, because if king to d1, they have rook a1 check, king moves, and then the pawn promotes on d1. Whereas the knight on c3 does also give some coverage to the d1 square. I think it's knight to c3, but again, it very well might be wrong, but I'm running low on time, so I'm gonna, yeah, okay, so if it's wrong, let's see what the answer was. Bishop to d5 check, rook takes, and then you can sack there and then pick up the exchange, or pick up the rook, and you're up a minor piece, and the pawns are stalled because of your knight here. Yeah, that wasn't even that hard. I think I got nervous with the time running out, but okay. I will see you guys next video.